The trial's underway. What is the context and the basis of the trial? Who's involved? What do we need to know?
And this is a case that is not just about privacy, but it is about power. Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify alongside former COO Sheryl Sandberg and board members about the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which has had quite a long shadow over Meta. But in this case, Meta is not a defendant. Actually, just the executives and the board members are, and the shareholders in this case are looking to hold them financially accountable for the fallout of that scandal.
Okay, history is important here. Like earlier in my career, Cambridge Analytica scandal was a big story. What are the basics of it that our audience who may or may not know need to know?
Yes. Years ago, this was a case where Cambridge Analytica, a firm, had harvested data of millions of Facebook users inappropriately. This firm had ties to political operations, the Trump campaign, and ultimately Facebook had to pay a multi-billion-dollar settlement to the FTC for that data breach.
Okay, what are the shareholders actually accusing the specific executives of then? If it's not the company that's a defendant and it's those key names, what is it the shareholders want?
Yeah, negligence, a lack of oversight over the company's actions during that time. Now, remember, Mark Zuckerberg has total control over the company via his voting power. He has the majority control over votes and essentially can set company direction. And shareholders here are saying that these executives didn't do their appropriate duty, didn't follow FTC orders, and allowed this breach to happen knowing that there were certain risks at hand.
I feel like there is a lot of litigation going on with Meta. It's hard to distinguish and work out all these different paths. This one's happening in Delaware. Why is it happening now? Again, like I reflect that the Cambridge Analytica scandal was more than a decade ago, something like that.
Yeah, so it's great that you bring up Delaware because what makes this an unprecedented case is it's the first time we're seeing a CEO and board members actually go to court. Usually these kinds of things are settled or negotiated behind closed doors. And we're actually seeing this trial take place in Delaware, and it really has ramifications for all companies out there, whether or not Mark Zuckerberg and other executives are having to pay billions in dollars for this scandal. Now, one thing we need to remember is this is a really hard case to win. These Caremark claims, the battle is uphill, and it could set the direction for whether Meta ultimately reincorporates outside of Delaware in the future.
So Riley Griffin of Bloomberg News and Bloomberg Tech, you're kind of like 6 months into this beat of covering Meta, and so much has happened in the first half of the year. What I would like to get from you is Mark Zuckerberg himself. Like, he actually does appear and gives testimony in the context of litigation, or if it is a political hearing, something like that, he often will stand up and speak, right?
Yes, and that's an evolution of his career. What we've learned from our reporting and my reporting over the last 6 months has been that Mark Zuckerberg really wants to take legal fights to court now. This is no longer a time where he wants to just settle, but he wants to set the precedent that Meta can win these cases. And in this case, he can.
You wrote an extensive and deep piece in Business Week about the kind of magnification of Mark Zuckerberg. I really encourage the audience to go out and read it. But you mentioned that the evolution of his career. There's also been an evolution of him, personally, politically. Could you summarize what you learned through that?
No apologies. This is something
from him. That's his vibe.
That is his vibe. He has said this publicly. He said it privately. He is done apologizing for scandals of the past and ready to move on and really dominate the space. And that demands winning, whether it's on the legal front or politically speaking.
So the big news this week in Meta's world has been this commitment for massive, massive scale data center. You know, I broke the story this morning. We're going to do it later and show that XAI is looking at Saudi Arabia because you need the capital, the space, the energy. But what Meta's doing, you know, the image that they give is it could cover Manhattan, the scale of what they want to do. Summarize it as best you can and what our read on it was.
Yeah, so hundreds of billions of dollars. That's how much Meta is expecting to spend on this AI race to beat out the competition.
Over time?
Over time. Over time. We know that this year, as of the last quarter results, they're expecting to spend, you know, as much as $72 billion in capital expenditures, a lot on data centers, as you mentioned. And we're seeing $200 million pay packages for AI talent. They're poaching from OpenAI. I mean, this is a relentless race, and Meta is putting all the capital it has on hand to win it.